Welcome back, my favorite Python programmers, to a brand new video, and in this one we're going to be working on files. So we're going to be creating two functions, the readWalden and the countFileLines. I will be providing you with the two text files in the description so that you can download them and work alongside with me. And we're going to be looking at how we can read a file and how to use a function that will allow us to count the lines and extract them into a list. So before we get started, a quick word from a sponsor that is very close to heart because that sponsor is me. If you're serious about leveling up your Python skills, let me tell you about what I do outside of YouTube. I've been teaching Python for over 5 years now, and I run a Python teaching institute where we help students go from complete beginners to absolute masters with a curriculum that focuses on practical application and building real-world skills. All the lessons are one-on-one and they are personalized just for you. This tailored approach ensures that you'll start seeing improvement within just 2 weeks, and by the 10th week you'll be on your way to mastery. And it's not just Python either. We dive into SQL, machine learning, and you'll graduate with over 5 portfolio projects to help you stand out to your employers. Oh, and for young learners, we also have a super fun Scratch program that starts with Scratch coding and gradually introduces Python through game development projects. So if you feel that this is something that you want to reach your goals faster, or you have someone that you love that you want to give them this opportunity to, or some younger kid, maybe yours, maybe someone else's, that you want them to learn Python and coding properly from a young age, make sure to reach out to me via WhatsApp on the number that I'll leave right here or in the description, or you can do the same by sending me an email to the email that I will leave somewhere around here or also in the description. Thank you so much, and let's get started with today's lesson. All right, so let's go ahead and look at what we have. So first exercise is going to be to write a function readWalden that reads in the walden.txt, which again I told you I will provide you in the description, counts the number of lines and returns that number. So we should have 18 lines, and the text is an excerpt from Walden by Henry David Thoreau. I don't know. So let's go ahead and do just that. Right here, you'll notice that I've already added these two texts right into my code. Now, you need to be careful on how you create the file paths. If you have them in a different directory, you will need to provide the absolute value of that directory. So you need to copy the path and paste it into wherever you are sending it. So first things first is we need to go ahead and create the, what was it called? The readWalden function. So I'm going to define the readWalden function, and it's going to take in the file path because we said, because if you notice, the exercise says that the function needs to read this text. So this function will receive the file path, and inside we will open the file with the following. So with open, and then use the file path that we were given. And since we'll be reading it, we'll be using the read mode. Now, if you don't know anything about reading files, I will recommend a video. I will link to one of my videos somewhere here around the top. So next thing is we have our file open. We need to give it an alias so that we can use functions on it. So I will say as file. Of course, we can call this whatever we want. Some people like to call it F. I like to call it file, keeping things a bit more understandable. Now in here, we want to extract all the different lines from Walden. So I'm going to say that the lines are equal to the file.readLines. So what this readLines does is it reads each line and then sets it as a string in a list. So if I print out the lines and I actually call this, so I'm going to print out because eventually we will be returning the length or returning the number of lines. So right here, I will read Walden, and it's going to be the walden.txt. Right, so you should see how these lines look like. So as you can see, it's a list that contains each individual line. Let me dock it right here. You can see that, boom, this is the first line, the second line, and so on and so forth. Now you might notice that we have this weird symbol, and this is because if I open up the Walden.txt, this is what it looks like. So right here you can see that a new line is added at the end, and this is the special character. It's a backspace n, or backslash n, which allows us to go to a new line. So as you can see, the woods in Walden Pond, whatever, it's a line, it's an element inside of our list. So now that we have these lines in lists, what we can do is we can simply return the length of this list, right? Because each line has its own individual element. So when we return the length of this list, we should get 18, just like they indicated to us. Perfect. Now, for the next function, we need to write a function that counts the file lines, that takes one argument, a string representing the path of the text. So this one is a bit more obvious. Your function should return a tuple. So let's see what this tuple should have. The first item is the number of lines in a file, so similar to what we've done already. And the second item is the number of characters in the file. Very interesting. So we also have the metamorphosis. I've also given you access to that text file, so all that you need to do is to add it in the same directory. Now, later on, if we have time, I don't think this video is going to be too long, I will show you what or how we would reference something that's not in the same directory. So we already have this, so we have extracted the lines. I'm going to call this the num _of _lines. This is a continuation. I will change this to countFileLines or readWalden. Because we will be reading another file, I don't think it's appropriate if we keep it as readWalden. I will say countFileLines. Okay, let's call it countFileLines. Or you know what? What I'll do is I will simply comment this one out and create a new function right here. So I will define the countFileLines. So the countFileLines, which will take in a file path, and it's basically going to be the same thing where I open up the file right in the reading mode and I extract the lines. I'm actually going to call this the number of lines, just so we have some differentiation. And instead of just reading the lines, I will get the length, right, of this file once these lines are read. The next step is to count the characters. So in order for us to count the characters, we need to go through each one of these lines. Or actually, you know what? What I'll do in here is I'll call these lines and say that it's equal to this, and then I will get the length of lines. This makes more sense because we'll be using these lines in a for loop, because what we want to do is we want to go through each one of these lines and we want to extract the number of characters in there. So first of all, I will initialize this. So for number of chars, and we will set it to 0, and then I will create a for loop. So for line in the lines, I'm going to say that the number of characters is plus equals to the length of my line, and that's it. So each individual element inside of my lines list is a line in itself, and it's a string, so I can count the number of characters using the length. And then at the end, what I do is I simply return the number of lines and the number of characters, and there we go. So I am going to go ahead and test this out. So I will print out the count of lines with the Walden.txt and with the metamorphosis.txt, and we should get the same answers. So right here, 18, 1194, and then 27 and 1671. Let's see, 1672. There is a slight difference, but that's not a huge problem. That's not something that we've missed. Sometimes maybe I did a different file, maybe I added an extra space. That sometimes happens. It just takes one extra space to ruin the whole thing. In any case, something to keep in mind is that whenever we're counting the characters, we're also counting the backspace. So we have to be very careful of that. Maybe in some exercises, they require you not to have these \n's or these special characters. You'd need to strip your lines, and we'll see that in a later video. Before we move on, let's say this walden.txt wasn't exactly where we wanted to be, as in it's not in the same directory. So let's say I create a new directory right here, and I'll call it the cc15, the files practice 2.3 text files, just a simple directory name, right? And I will add the Walden refactor. Oh, there we go. It does it automatically. So I will do the second one without any refactoring. Can I just cancel, or will it not work? Oh, it requires us to do it. So I will comment this line out, add this. Oh, either way it wants. Okay, it didn't change. Perfect. So notice what happens. Thankfully, it did it for us, but what it did is it actually sent in the file name or the directory name first, / and then walden.txt. If I try to run this, it will give me an error telling me that the file was not found. So if I right click and I run, there we go. It tells me that the metamorphosis.txt was not found. Why? Because this is not the directory, or this is not the actual path of my file. The path of my file is, first of all, cc right here, files practice text files / metamorphosis. So be careful. You have to provide the proper file path. Otherwise, you will get a file not found error. And when I right click and I run, everything works the same. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. As I told you, this is a short one. This requires you to know what the with open, what it does, what's the difference between it and just opening a file and then having to close it. So if you're interested, you can watch the free videos on my YouTube channel. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Any questions, leave them in the comments. I appreciate your comments. I love them. I am trying to work on videos that you're suggesting for me. So yeah, subscribe, follow for more. And yeah, if you are interested or you have anybody who is interested in learning Python the quick, short, and more effective way, hit me up. We can get started. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.